Hey there guys, it's Mark and Trent from eLab. We're just going to have a conversation with you about the overhead press and doing anything in exercise where we're pushing weights over the level of our shoulders. It's one of the things which we find are done really poorly in gyms and in exercise regimes. And so we're just going to sit and talk to you about a couple of things which we see go wrong, and then we'll talk about the corrections for those and how to manage those. Just come a little bit closer for me, Trent. Trent's going to do some bad ones to start with. And so you'll see, firstly, just hold that top part for me there, Trent. So press back up, so do your overhead press. Yep. And so you'll see the first thing that happens, which we see, people are generating power from their hips and their back instead of getting control through here. So you'll see Trent's thrusted his hips forwards. So his greater trochanter of his hips are now in front of his shoulders. So now he's loading his lumbar spine into a strong lordosis. Come back down for me. And I mean, especially with Trent, he's got quite a strong middle back and kyphotic curve through here. So this sort of stiff mid back, this thoracic spine, is going to make you more prone to want to extend further. Go again and press through here. And so now you've got pressure on facet joints and the posterior part of the spine, and which is going to cause compression through there and can lead to lots of different stuff. Like long term, it can lead to degenerative changes in arthritis, shorter term nerve compression, and just muscle spasm through there and pain. And so firstly, at the pelvis, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the greater trochanter, which is this bump at the side of the hip, this bone, sits right underneath the acromion here, so right underneath the shoulder, and stays there. In doing that, what you're going to get is you're going to naturally have to activate through your core. And so I'm going to get Trent to have a breath in, and as he breathes out, he's going to do the press, and he's going to activate through his core, and he's going to stabilize that. So a nice way to do that is to pretend you've got a seam on the shirt, like a line that runs all the way down and all the way through your shorts, which essentially Trent's got here, but pretending a white line, and that line stays vertical through the movement. So just do a couple of ones for me there, Trent. Cool. And he'll feel that he's activating through his core there, and now he's going to be generating some good control to press the weights above his head. And so now he's going to be getting much more of his middle delt and anterior delt, and he's not going to be putting so much load through his bicep. And the bicep tendon, if it's overloaded, can pull on its anchor, and that's what ends up creating tears in the shoulder. And slap tears are one of the common training injuries. And you can apply this principle to push-ups to a large degree as well. So the next thing that we'll talk about is like neck position, and this is like just as common as the lumbar spine. And so if you bring your shoulders up again from your Trent, and so the thing that we see a lot of the time is a protraction, and as he pushes up, and he'll end up looking up a little bit, and so he's driving the weight up with his neck and pushing his head up into the air and extending, trying to get that force. If you're having to do that, the weight's way too strong for you. And so what we want is we want the spine to sit neutral, so on top of each other, and so the crown and the head should stay long. So you should be looking straight forwards, chin slightly tucked, almost like you've got a ping pong ball sitting underneath your chin the whole time, and you're not going to drop that, and then you press straight up. And now you've got a pure shoulder movement. Now you know how strong you are through your deltoids and your rotator cuff system, and you're not applying your spinal strength, I suppose, to help push that movement up. And so his chin stays nice and neutral, the spine stays stacked through here. We're not going to get any of those compression of the posterior structures, the back structures of the spine, and we're going to be looking after your nerves, and we're going to be looking after your neck for the long term, so avoiding things like headaches and shoulder pain. And just to note with that, if you are coming into protraction a lot into this position, and again, like I said before, you can carry this over to like push-ups and pressing as well, because this is what happens. If you're going through here, you're going to shut down the foramens, the little spaces for the nerves that come out through here, and then they won't be able to feed the muscles, and so you won't get strength in the muscles, and that's when you start to get rotator cuff tears. Okay, so keeping your spine in a nice position so you've got good space for the nerves to flow down to the shoulders is imperative to make sure you maintain power through the good muscles of your rotator cuff, and so you're not getting impingement syndrome, creating a subacromial bursitis, supraspinatus tears, and all the other things like slap tears that come along with the shoulder. So Trent knows his stuff. I'm going to get him to do about 5 to 10 repetitions of good stuff for you, and that should help you out. Nice. Super stable spine. Good. Using some of his pelvis to push up, but not losing his pelvis alignment. So he's generating power from here, Yeah, he'll feel the push through his feet into the ground, applied through his core, and then he'll maintain good spinal length and spinal alignment. Nice work, brother.
Also, man, it's just like in terms of mobility and whatnot too, like people just say tight through their pec major, pec minor, through their traps, through their lats, through their subscap as well. So if you just do little things, if you're going to be doing a lot of overhead work, just keep those mobility, whether or not you're, different forms of release work that you want to do, whether or not we MFR or different, stretching or not stretching, but active mobility work, opening those areas to keep them nice and mobile and ready to go.
That's right. I mean, you can have all the strength and control in the world, but if you don't have the mobility allow you to go there, you're not going to be able to do it. So 100% right. And good test for that is being able to stand and extend, and you can do this against the wall if you had your heels up against the wall and your back against the wall, and being able to extend your arms up without losing your lumbar spine. So stand up against the wall with your heels up against it, stand straight, draw in your tummy, get your back as flat as you can through the wall, shoulder blades on it, back of your head's almost on the wall or maybe on the wall, and then holding your arms straight up into the air. If you can't get there without a big lordosis through your back, then exactly what Trent's saying, you need to be working on your lats, you need to be working on your pecs, and you need to be working on your thoracic spine mobility so that you can get there. And until then, you need to be lifting really light loads. Yeah.